it's hard to find like a nice budget project, you know, like
Well,
one
yeah.
in the 20s, like 22 to 23 grand.
Yeah.
Those cars don't exist anymore. You know,
Right,
they're either
they pay,
35 or they're 10.
Yeah. And then even 10 grand, you got to spend a bunch of money on
yeah.
it, you know? And what people don't realize is that shit will like nickel and dime you to death. And it's like you would have been better off buying a $20,000 car. So that $10,000, it needs $15,000 worth of parts.
Yep.
Then you got to deal with the stress of like finding that stuff used and ordering it, hope it gets here, and hope it's in the condition you want.
Yep. All right, ready to rip?
Yep.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Driving Force on the Rad Potential YouTube channel. So this show is all about not so much talking about the cars, but talking about the people behind the cars and what makes them want to have the car they have, but also the story that got them to the car they have. So we're here with one of my really good friends, longtime friend, car friend, Johnny K. We are ripping in his 1993 CYM RX7. So, Johnny, I guess we'll start with, what was your first car, and how many cars have you had to get to this one?
And it takes me back to a lot of good memories. And, sadly, we were on a road trip one time, and we counted up all the cars. And I want to say it was like 35 to 40 cars, and I couldn't rattle them off now. But my first car was a Honda CRX, like an HF model, high fuel efficiency. But what's funny about that car is, when I was in high school, like that car wasn't cool. Like I thought it was like an old beat up car. So my parents had like a Isuzu Rodeo that was fairly new, and I wanted to drive like the nice SUV to work. And then like 99, 2000, of course, Fast and the Furious comes out, the original Fast and the Furious. Now it was like cool to drive like an import like Honda car that you can modify. And so my parents had that CRX just as a beater to drive to work, and I took that car and started modifying it. So that's where it all started.
Thank God. So now with the Honda stuff, did you have turbo Hondas after that? Or I guess like nowadays the craze with all these Stancy cars probably wasn't the same back then. You probably had 15-inch wheels and, built for the track kind of bonds or street bonds and stuff.
Man, so again, this is 99, 2000, so it was like real big and like body kits. And so I had like a Wings West RS body kit that I thought it was like super cool, like some TSW wheels or Walmart wheels, whatever was cool at that time. And it was an automatic CRX, and so I wasn't really going for speed, but I feel like one of the first mods that everybody knew was like, put an intake and exhaust, and I just thought it was the coolest little thing that made like 80 horsepower, but made some cool noises with my carbon fiber shift knob, my racing seats that, again, it'll take me 10 seconds to go 50 miles per hour, but that was a craze back in the day, man. Like these racing seats that with your harness, and I know you're looking for some seats, so you know how expensive those things are. Those are good ones, but I had some cheap eBay ones that were super uncomfortable and ungodly unsafe, so I'm glad I never got in a wreck in that thing.
The sacrifices you make for style, right?
Yeah. So I got bored with that automatic, and I went to go buy like an SI model, which had a little bit more horsepower, a little bit bigger engine. It was 1.5 instead of 1.6. And at that time, I didn't know how to drive 5-speed. I didn't know how to drive a manual transmission. So I went with a buddy to go pick it up, and he had to test drive it for me because I didn't know how to drive. And I went from this nicely modified CRX that had a body kit and wheels to like a rusty, CRX SI, but it was manual. And my parents was like, dude, what'd you do? You just spent all this money to make this car look nice, and then you buy this piece of crap. You don't even know how to drive it, And you know what it's like to have a rusty car, So.
So now, when you were young, the RX7, I guess, would have been the new hot car, right? Whenever you were in high school, or was it still a little old back then?
What's funny is like I saw the FD in Fast and the Furious, and like it was cool, but I was like strictly into Hondas for a few years, and so I was all about like, man, I got to do like a B16 swap and GSR or get a Type R Integra and all these JDM craze and all that good stuff. So it took me a while to get into RX7. A lot of you guys know Cousin Vinny, and Vinny had a second gen at that time, and I didn't know anything about RX7s and rotaries, and I just knew that his revved up to like 12,000 RPMs and was super loud, and he tracked it, but didn't really know much about him.
Yeah. Like, oh, hey, look,
What's that? Oh, first gen. Yeah, speaking of,
Heck yeah.
I think Melinda saw that earlier and took a picture of it.
So I guess it wasn't long before I kind of met you guys, your crazy rotary family, that you were into drifting and stuff as well. Because I remember the first FD, the black one, I was under the impression you traded your drift car for it.
Yeah, I was real big into drifting probably 6-7 years ago, and decided to build a dedicated drift car that had a V8 in it. Of course, at that time, like that stuff was expensive. I bought like the best mount kit, a good solid engine. I just bought the best parts that I could, and so I spent all this money, and there was no way I'm going to get all my money back out of it. Luckily, I posted it online, and somebody wanted to trade an FD for it, and I felt like that was the best thing I could do because now I can get this FD chassis, which was, I say affordable, was like $15,000 back in the day, but it still needed a lot of work. And that's sad, when like you buy a piece of crap car for $15,000, but that same car today would probably be $25,000.
Yeah.
So Charles and I drove down to, I want to say Mississippi, and traded for that FD that needed a ton of work.
Yeah, because I remember when I used to rent a room from these guys, the black FD, which is that car, overwent a huge transformation. I mean, it got painted, we got engine stuff done to it, single turbo put on it, the ECU, we fought a few different ECUs,
Going through all the FD struggles, and everyone's always excited to get an FD, and so they start working on it, and then start taking it, and they try to go buy parts and realize that everything's like simply replaced. Especially coming from a Honda kid, where everything's available and cheap.
Yeah. So now, since he got transformed into the FD guru, the rotary guy, how many FDs have you had since that one?
Have the count. So I had the black one. Do I count mine or Melinda's too, or just mine?
Just yours.
So I think I've had a black one. I've had a red one. I've had a Montego blue one. So I think I've had 3, which is sad. Again, you kind of have to sit back and think about what all you got.
Yeah. So then, I guess a little bit more into this car in particular and why you set it up the way that it is. So, quick overview. It's still sequential.
Yep.
Power FC, right?
Actually, I think this one's back on stock ECU.
Okay. And then it's got Gretty exhaust, intake, intercooler, and I think that's, as far as like drivetrain stuff, there really isn't much else done to it, right?
No, I think over the years I've learned to try to keep it simple. And now that I'm older, I really don't care for loud cars and sticky exhaust. And so I'm surprised I've kept this exhaust as long as I have.
Yeah.
I did put a mid pipe on it and removed it because it was too loud. And so, but I still have the full ready exhaust.
And then this one as well has, you can see it in there, and we'll in the outside stuff, 99 spec front end and back end, and then I think the stock 93 skirts, right? And stock front fenders.
Stock front fenders. It's got 99 stuff. It has a 99 sides.
Okay.
So I went ahead and completed the whole theme. And what I love about like the OEM stuff, it just fits well, and it's poly, and it again, just experience. And over the years, you buy cheap fiberglass stuff, and it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And you spend more time and money tinkering with it. And
yeah.
Even with this one, I'm still not 100% satisfied the way it fits, but it fits better than fiberglass.
Yeah. The nice part about this car is that it starts every time.
Yes.
It's got AC.
Yes.
And
Radio.
The doors and stuff don't rattle.
Yeah.
It's pretty quiet in here. And he's done a super awesome job making the interior nice. We're talking about all this red stitching stuff, the Spirit R stuff. And it's got a stock radio.
Yes.
And it's just like simple, it's not all priced out. It doesn't have like a touch screen and fancy shifter knob and
Yeah, so my black car, it had a lot of that stuff, and it had like these blue lights, with the aftermarket gauges, and it had like a boost controller, and it looks cool like back in the day. But now that I'm older, man, like all that shit's just annoying, man. Like I just don't want to see all that flashing, and it doesn't like fit together, and amber going with that blue. I just don't like that stuff anymore. So that's what happens when I get old. I'm not sure everybody else will feel the same way, but just at a different point in my life.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Busy road.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat. About 3 years ago, maybe 3, 4, 5. I've been out of college for 2 years.
COVID, man, it's hard to keep up with time these days.
So 2 years before, I guess when I was a sophomore, I was a freshman. I met Charles, I think, at a car show. Or it was Johnny, kind of through one of our other buddies, Patrick. I met these guys, and then ended up renting a room from them for 3 summers and helping out with cars and doing the rotary stuff. And that's pretty much where I learned all my rotary stuff, was from these guys and Charles. And fortunate to be able to hang around all these super cool cars. You get to learn a lot about them, putting engines in and out, helping your buddies and stuff. So it's been really cool to be around for that, and appreciate you guys letting me into your lives for a while.
Yeah, and it's been nice to have you around because I think you did the engine swap on this one.
Yeah, remember? Yeah.
I think you pulled the engine out of, because when I got this car, it had a lower mileage or fairly recent built engine that had single turbo.
Yep.
And as you know, you mentioned, went back to sequential. So
Yep.
I had this lower mileage engine, and I didn't have the time to do it.
Yep.
So I sent it to you to get it done, and remember how all that was.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't too bad, right?
No, that was like...
That's some fun wiring, right?
Yeah.
Easy.
Fix it. This car had like a funky... It's like an alarm system, right? Or something in it.
Yeah, aftermarket alarm system, they had like those injector drivers, or like some kind of relay resistors for injectors.
I wish I would have bought that car from that guy, the silver one. Like, hindsight, I should have bought that car. That would have been a really sweet car. But there was a silver FD that he was doing some work on, and the motor setup from this car with the single turbo and ECU was already too. I mean, this car ran great, just cosmetically and a bit of neglect. So we swapped all the motor stuff into this other customer FD, and then it was running it good. And then we took the motor from that one or another one you had that we built and put it in here, and then put this one back to stock. And then I just worked to it, and like you said, it takes a good amount of capital to put one of these cars together the right way, so like I know you bought some new engine harnesses and new wiring harnesses for out here, and just to make sure that you don't have to deal with any of the like cracked wiring, stuff going wrong, and all that, and it pays dividends on the back end, just saving you time, right? If you can put a value to your time, spending money on quality parts most of the time is always going to outweigh the time you would take to fix something that's cheaper.
Because I've been there, right? So I'm trying to buy like a cheap harness for $200-$300, fix it, put it in there, and later finding out something else is broken, or like you have a broken wire and you spend all that time trying to fix it instead of driving the car.
Yeah.
So you spend $1,000 on a brand new harness, which is stupid. Like, why would I want to spend $1,000 on a brand new harness? But it's nice and flexible.
Yeah.
Plug it in, it works. It's like now weather's been crappy. You know what it's like to be working in a cold garage. Like I've been there, man. That stuff sucks, dude. Like rather be in the house just chilling.
So more like other stuff. So now, Johnny, in the car world, right? What are some of like?
We just turned over 56,000 miles.
Little miles on this thing. So like in the car world, you got like big Fast and Furious movies, other big car movies. What's one of your favorite movie cars?
I would say Gone in 60 Seconds.
Okay.
Even though I couldn't rattle off all those cars in there, but Nicolas Cage and just the storyline and how they shot them. Yeah, the yellow.
Yeah, one thing, if you find a set of oil slick Graham lights,
yes,
the 7-spoke oil slick Graham lights, and they're chrome center, and then they have the like neochrome oil slick lips that are like 17s or 18s, 5 lug for an FD. Hit us up. We need those wheels.
Yeah, I don't need like super low offsets. I think the one you sent to me the other day was like 19s, and they're like plus 10 or plus 15. That would work on my wide body setup. Not for
like stock FD fitment.
Weak fitment.
Yeah, the weak fitment. Like plus 40. We can run a slow space.
Yeah. See, now I'm old, I like that thicker sidewall. I like having a comfortable
not having to roll the fenders, and they just fit. You can hit bumps and not rub. Johnny, looking forward, are there any major changes to this car that you plan to do? I know the motor swap stuff, which I talk about that if you really don't want to, but just like body mods, anything else, any interior mods, stuff like that you plan to do this?
Nah, no body mods. I know Calvin is a real big body guy, and he's got a lot of stuff going on. But eventually, one of these days, I want to fit the panels a little bit better. You know, the headlight panels doesn't fit exactly the way I want. Same thing with the side skirts. Again, like now that I'm older, I just appreciate little small details like that, man.
Yeah.
It kind of irks me to go to a car meet and have my hood closed and panels and not having the right level of gaps. But I think it's okay to talk a little bit about the four rotary, even though it's a slow build, and I think it'll generate some interest and get people to tune back in later on. But yeah, you know, we mentioned Logan at Define Auto earlier, and he's in the process of building a four rotor for me, and it's going to be naturally aspirated. It's a slow build, and you know, which is okay. You know, like this stuff's expensive, and so I'm not trying to get it done. Next week, but it would be nice to get it done in the near future. And you know, quality takes time, as you know. So I wanted to go with somebody that has built four rotors before, and Logan drives his and races it. He's had it for a couple of years, and he's stateside, and so I'm hoping I partnered up with the right person.
Yeah, I think the cool thing too, and you know, and now that we talk about it a little bit, the goal for the four rotor in this car is to keep it just like it is. So AC, power steering, like all the creature comforts, right? And you know, the lack thereof in an FD RX7, but still the majority of that stuff to keep.
Yeah, because we can drive it around like this, you know, like I can drive it in Cars and Coffee and back into a spot and not feel like I had arm day backing in because I don't have power steering.
Yeah, and I think too, you know, one thing that kind of gets lost in translation whenever people think of a four rotor build is it's going to make a bunch of horsepower and be crazy. But I think it'd be cool to have one that's super streetable and reliable and starts, and you can drive it in town, and it's not going to get good fuel economy. But like, if you go to the Taco Bell drive-thru and shut it off because it's loud and turn it back on, like it's not going to not start or sit there and crank, you know.
Or like heat soak, like I don't mind having to like sit in traffic because it's going to be naturally aspirated, and you know it's have turbo to keep making everything hot.
Yeah.
At least that's the idea. We'll see.
So we'll see how it turns out. It's not like we're going to be doing a four rotor FD build in 2 months, but you know, next year, this fall, whenever everybody starts working on it, we'll try to show a little bit of it. So for sure, one of the coolest sensations you can ever get in the car world is driving in one of these that has sequential stuff hooked up, because it makes a ton of boost at low RPM and feeling the changeover, and then it keep pulling and the whole deal. It's so cool. So all the guys that have single turbo FDs are really missing out on what this car was like actually built for, because it would compete with cars the likes of a Corvette, cars like that have torque because it makes torque, you know, versus having to wait for the top end to pull to come on.
Hey, it's like 3,000 pounds, you know, like 3,000 pounds, so you don't need a ton of horsepower.
Johnny, what would your biggest complaint be about this car in particular? Or I guess the FD chassis in general. Like, what don't you like about it?
Man. What is there not to like? I mean, I like the way it looks. And I feel like as long as you're not messing around with the engine, you just keep it simple with basic bolt-ons, and it can be fairly reliable. I think it has a bad rap about not being reliable. That's because people put full exhausts on and big intakes and not tune them and blow them up and, you know, go single turbo and then give up on it. And I feel like it's a great car out of the box. Yeah. I haven't driven like too many other sports cars. You know, one of these days I need to drive your Corvette.
Yeah.
But I think my biggest complaint right now is I got the stock radio and stock speakers, and you know, I wish I had better sound quality.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish it was a little bit more quiet, you know, like having some sound deadening, which had more weight.
Yeah. But
just like having like the creature comforts of like a newer car, like, you know, a newer car, you know, this car's fairly quiet for like considered like for other 93 FDs.
Oh, yeah.
But like you get like a new Porsche, you get your Corvette, I just feel like that quality and the rattleness is not there. And so I just wish I had like new modern day functions instead of a car from 25 years old, you know?
Yeah, I'd be interested to, I would say like to go back in time and drive one of these right off the showroom floor to like see if it rattled, you know, like what did it actually drive like, you know?
Yeah, you know, one of the Montego Blues that I bought, you know, I flew up to Michigan to buy and then drove it back home, and Charles and I drove it to Florida and put a ton of miles on it. I want to say like mid-July. It was like we took it to a 7 days meet.
Yeah.
That car had like 50,000 miles, and that was probably the closest experience I had to a stock car because it was. And I think it was super nice. You know, we sat in traffic and we're in the middle of July and had AC working. It rained and like I didn't have to worry about like it frosting over at like my defrost work, and that was a great experience. You know, power wise, a little underwhelming because it didn't have like the free flow exhaust, or at least it didn't make noises to feel like you're going fast. Yeah, I mean, I think that was probably the closest I get to a stock experience car.
Yeah, it's the hard part too. You know, you have all these builds and you can build a car really well, but when you're putting panels back on and refitting stuff, and then the tolerances aren't the same, and you know, if you don't put like foam tape on everything, you know, your A-pillars rattle, your window visors fall down. You know, it's just hard to get it factory fresh.
Yeah, that's why when I got that car, I didn't want to remove anything. Like everything fit, because you can try to take panels off here and there, and like it never fails. You always break that one clip. You know, that one clip. It's amazing what a difference it makes on
panel forever rattles.
Yeah, super annoying. Yeah. Again, like if I was in my 20s, I wouldn't care. Now I do.
I want to give Johnny a huge thanks for letting me bother him this lovely Saturday morning in the cold.
It's good to catch up, man.
Putting some miles on his car and talking about it. You know, there's some stuff that we talked about now that I learned that's new that, you know, been around for a few years. So, if you want to see anybody's car in particular on this, on Driving Force, you know, moving forward or whatever, or recommend any cars, I'm just going to go through my buddies, and from there we'll see, you know, where it comes. I know we're going to do a video with Johnny's wife here in a little bit and her FD, so look for that one if I haven't already posted it. And subscribe if you want to see some more rad potential stuff. We'll see you on the next one. Keep red.